Great to see everybody. Thanks for being here. We had our first practice today. I'm sure we'll get into that with the questions. We're excited about the 23 season. I saw a lot of you last week, so I'm sure you got a lot of questions as we move forward. Just a reminder, this Saturday is our open practice, which you're very aware of, but our fans as well. The diaper drive and the oar drive, because of our spring game, we've got to be able to do that in training camp. So, our fans have brought over 100,000 boxes of diapers. That's pretty amazing when you're talking about. We started that 7 years ago, and I think that's been a huge success for us. And we appreciate all the donations by all of our fans. Look forward to seeing everybody at the open practice. Again, had our first practice today. I'm sure you got a lot of questions, and I spent answering a lot of them last week, and I'm sure you have a lot more. So we'll open up for questions.
Special teams always important, but maybe with a really challenging season this year, things could come down to a last-minute
opportunistic
yeah.
schedule. Yes.
Sorry. How do you evaluate special teams overall, and including that key field goal you might need, or the key punt to get out of a hole or whatever?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head when we're talking about our special teams. We've talked of what we have to be able to do to gain even more advantages, and special teams is a huge piece to that. You look at the return game from where we were to where we were last year, and it was a huge step forward with a lot of youthful players that have a lot of years left. You look at our field goal kicker with Dragon and how big of a leg he has. He's been in huge games to kick long field goals too. Now, again, some good, some bad when you look at it, but he's gained a ton of experience and a ton of knowledge. You look at our punter. I mean, he's the oldest guy on our football team. So when I said there's an experience and inexperience, that is the same with our special teams. A lot of our core special teams guys are back again, the Derek LeCaptains, guys like that. And you see that a lot of that young linebacking core and the safety core, probably one of the deepest and best special teams units we've had in a long time. When we're talking about the core four. But when you're looking at the actual specialists, I think they've all gotten better. They've had a great offseason, and that's something that can be the difference maker when you're looking at a season and a schedule like we have. So I'm really excited about it. I feel really good about it. Now we've got to go ahead and out and earn our spots. But for the most part, I think that's what Rob Wenger's done a great job of, is the consistency to stay with things as we continue to raise the floor of our program in terms of talent. And now we're deeper and better than we've been in a lot of positions.
You talk about sustainability a lot. Are you in a better spot now to kind of withstand a roster turnover that you're going through this year than you would have been 3 years ago or even 2 years ago?
Yeah, you hope so, Chip. Cultural sustainability, that's what it's all about. When you look at where people are in the program, and we're on year 7 now, right? And 7 doesn't mean, okay, every win column is going to keep going up, because no matter what, even if a team wins 14 games, 15 games, you can't win 20 games in a year. It's not going to keep doing that. But what I'm looking at is how we're building the program, where when guys leave, you already have somebody that's developed in that role, ready to go. And, whether that's through the transfer portal or whether that's through the high school development piece of that. But the familiarity with the systems, with the culture, I think that's absolutely critical for people that are selecting the program. Remember, we talk about the difference between selecting and recruiting. I'm not recruiting anybody to come here. We're selecting. It's got to be a complete fit, right? The players that come here know exactly what they're going to do academically, athletically, socially, spiritually, serving and giving. They know that coming here. And it's not like they get here like, wait, well, I have to do all this stuff? That's what they're buying. They're coming into that piece. So when you have 7 years of that and you see the older guys that have played 7, 6, 5 years influencing the young people on the field and off the field, that's what we're talking about, the sustainability part. And you should be able to reload instead of have to rebuild all the time. Years ago, I think, you'd have a great year and the people would be like, okay, well, they're going to rebuild the next few years, but then 2-3 years are going to be really good again. I'm not saying everybody, but that was a common quote. I don't think you hear that all the time anymore, because there's ways to be able to reload every year than there used to be. You can be a really old team, then you got to get really young really quick, depending on how many players were on your team that were older. But the sustainability is critical, I think, for success of any team, and especially ours from where we are. But I see a huge difference from where we were to where we are now.
When it comes to that transition along the offensive line, we talked about Nathan Bowe last week, Quinn coming into guard. How do you look at right tackle and left guard?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the battle of camp. Martez Lewis has played a lot of football for us. He's played it at guard. He can play tackle. He's a big individual, played a lot of football. He's really committed to his body. He's committed to understanding the game even more, our offense. And every year, you just watch these guys get better and better. And it's all about the race to maturity level. I mean, it's unbelievable what a young person, I'm just giving you an example, that's a true freshman like Kenrick can come in here in January, and already he looks like one of the older players. Now, is he ready to step foot on the field yet? No. But that's a massive maturation change from the beginning to where we are now in just 7-8 months. When you look at Martez, that's been years, and he's so much more mature, has a better understanding of who he is, and he'll be fighting with that right tackle position with J.J. Gaudet, who's played a lot of football for us. Unfortunately, over the last few years, hasn't been able to stay healthy enough. And so we can always put Quinn at that position too if we feel comfortable with sliding guys down to the guard position. But I really like Quinn where he's at. But, Quinn's just such a great teammate. He'll do anything. The left guard position with Carter Shaw, he's an experienced guy. He's played a lot of college football and been in a role where he can back up the guard and the center position for us, which is key. And then Tyler Cooper, who this is his time to go. And I've told him that, and he knows that. This is his time to go. Put your foot on the gas and let's go. But it's going to be a great battle as we keep going forward. I really like a lot of the young players, the Tony Nelsons of the world and the Ashton Beers of the world. I mean, it's been fun to watch them go. Greg Johnson seems like he's been here 2 years already, and he just got here in January. That's what I mean. These guys are maturing at a very rapid level, and they're coming here with that expectation is, I want to help, and I want to help in any way. It's not like, hey, I'm going to start. Listen, they have an open mind. I'm going to help, and I'm going to do everything I can to be a great teammate. And when you do that, you're going to get better naturally.
BJ, you recruited Quinn out of high school, and then he went to Notre Dame and you had to re-recruit him. What was that process like?
Well, which one? The second time? Way better than the first time. That went in our favor the second time. But we always knew when we were recruiting Quinn, he was such a great fit for us because we always felt he was a developmental lineman. Of course, he was a number one player in the state coming out of Edina. Really good player. But again, you make it to the top two, top three. And, he's got his degree from Notre Dame. And I think that's really important to him and his family. It seems like I always run into his parents somehow, some way at a dinner, even now. I mean, last week ran into him at a dinner. And we just always knew that, gosh, if he doesn't play, I hope one day he, jumps foot in that portal. And if he does, we'll be all over him. I think everybody, when you're recruiting right now, even if you don't get some of those kids, you hope to build a strong enough bond that if they do jump in the portal, when you start recruiting them after that you have the ability to be in the hunt. And with Quinn, hopefully it was a no-brainer for him to come on back home, have his degree from Notre Dame, and play. And I know he's very proud of those types of things.
How would you compare your current quarterback with your former quarterback at similar stages in their career in terms of maturity, and a word you like to use, poise?
Yeah. Taller than both quarterbacks that have pretty much played. It's amazing. We were having a conversation, I think it was with one of you, and we were talking about that really we've had two quarterbacks truly play over our 10 years being a head coach or our system and our culture. Now this is year 11. This is technically going to be our third starter with significant time and investment into him. But I look at, Athan's very different. He's just a different person than Zach Terrell at Western Michigan. Zach was different than Tanner. Tanner's different than Athan. Athan has a lot of amazing qualities as an athlete and as a thrower and a passer. What I've seen the biggest difference is, which is similar, is in the leadership, the intangibles, leading not just the quarterback room or the offense, but expanding that to the whole team. He wasn't able to do that last year, not because he was resisting it. It was just that he didn't have enough experience. Maybe he didn't even trust himself to do that yet. You're really worried about just your role, and now you're starting to see that expand a little bit more. The consistency's got to continue to go up because I think that's the similar piece that Zach Terrell had, that Tanner Morgan had, and that Athan can bring, as well as Cole, is that the consistency. Coaches love to know exactly what they're going to get, and then there's an X factor. And I think that's what Athan brings. He's got a little this moxie, this X factor that he can create. And I think that's the difference that we've had now that maybe we didn't have necessarily before naturally, respectively speaking, because they're all tremendous quarterbacks and all are some of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play at their school. So he's got to keep going, keep developing, but he sure is fun to coach. So is Cole. And even Drew took today we gave the majority of the reps to a lot of the young players. To really acclimate them to how we practice. I think we're out there an hour and 22 minutes, something like that. And I thought the young guys did a great job. So it's fun to watch your young players like, wow, he's going to be a great player. He's going to be a great player. And you can see it with no pads, and you can see it in day one. Now, again, they got to go earn that. And I remember watching Rashad Bateman in practice one, like, yeah, I think he's going to be pretty good. You guys will be able to tell that too, just watching him.
Some of your major points of emphasis on defense entering camp?
Personnel or what we have to do on defense?
Both.
Well, personnel-wise, I think it's just solidifying some positions. Yeah, I think we have 8, 9 defensive linemen that can rotate. I think Winston has done a tremendous job of developing that unit, probably better than I've ever seen in my 11 years being a head coach. Complete compliment to him, Coach Rossi, and just how these guys have grown up, their excitement level towards their position, their excitement level towards getting better and growth on and off the field. They're long, they're big, they're strong, they're athletic, but you can do that and still not be very good. You've got to be able to connect. I've seen a ton more gratefulness in that room, and I think gratefulness is one of the least talked about things that connects a locker room more than anything. And I think we have a very grateful football team for each other, and our D-line, it starts there. But I just want to see those guys be able to truly keep coming together and make each other better. You don't have to be the guy that gets the sack. As long as you're doing your job, you can create a double team to get somebody else a sack. Then it'll be your turn next. But I think that selfless gratitude play is what I'm looking for up front. Linebackers, just a consistency part. Who's going to play different positions from the Sam and the Mike. And, Cody's just such a great player. But he's brought everybody with him. We've got a bunch of little Codys out there and a bunch of Marianos out there. That's you just feel that energy level from them. Then the secondary, the corner position, just depth at corner. I like the guys we brought in, and I like the young guys too. We moved Evan Redding over to the other side of the ball. Now he's at corner. He made a great play today that was just so natural with his hands, knocking a ball away at the last second in the hands of a wideout. So I feel really good about where we're headed in that direction too. But and then, obviously it's not just about getting pressure on the quarterback. We just all have to play better as 11. One player doesn't make a defense. 6 players don't make a defense. Coach Rossi's talked to our defense about our 11 have to be better than your 11. That's it. But our 11 working together have to do it better than what your 11's doing. And we've said that for a long time and just love the way he put it. So you'll see a bunch of 11s over there on defense. And don't get it mixed up with Tweez or anything. It's just you'll see a bunch of 11s for those guys. And I love the philosophy of that and the mindset. And these guys have embraced that. And it goes back to the poise word that you used. And that's been a huge word of emphasis for us. Because if you don't have poise, it's poison, truly. I mean, you don't need that. You've got to be, and we're going to be in some critical situations, I'm sure, that we're going to have it. And our defense, we're going to expect that from them for sure.
EJ, what's your evaluation, excuse me, what's your evaluation of NIL and how it's impacting football specifically? And
Well, it's definitely.
how do you look at it?
Well, one, just in general, I mean, NIL has completely changed the landscape of college football. I mean, it's just it's too big of an issue not necessarily in a negative way. It's just too big of a change not to influence something that dramatic. But I think it's been great. I think we always have room for improvement here at Minnesota. Been talking to a lot of people. It's getting people to change thoughts, ideas, and beliefs that they've had before about the way it used to be. It's really hard to change a lot of people set in their ways and saying, listen, I know maybe you've donated to other things before, but we might need to look at where you need to donate money over here. Well, I don't necessarily believe in that. Well, whether we believe in it or not, or you do believe it, don't believe in it, that's the wave of college football. And if you want to see players stick around and stay, that's going to be a huge emphasis of we need people to be involved in Dinkytown athletes and the other avenues. So it's critical. I mean, it's critical now. It's critical on having players come here. It's critical on keeping players because, and players get to make choices and decisions all the time. And when you can see the portal and NIL combining together, they were both invented for such great reasons and such logical reasons. But like anything, you take those two things with no bumper lanes and no rules and who knows what's going on, and you combine them into recruiting, holy cow. With no salary cap, that's, kind of where people are a little lost. The people I talk to don't talk about NIL being a negative thing, and I don't believe it is. I think we're all just asking for guidelines, what to do. Some parity, somebody grab a hold of this thing. Somebody asked me, who do you think who it should be? I have no idea. Someone. And I think that's where we're headed. And I think that's where, the commissioners are starting to move towards that political piece even and up the higher chain of command to see what we can do that way. But that's way above me. But I think that we can do more here at the University of Minnesota always. And we strive to always give our student athletes a first-class experience in every area, and NIL is no different.
I think people are curious about who's going to be your offensive play caller. What's the process with that?
Yeah.
Why haven't we heard it? Is this tied to Nebraska? Why is this something that's taken into fall camp?
Yeah, we have no idea what they're going to do. We have 7 years of stuff they know, 11 years of what we're going to do, right? No, it has nothing to do with that. I just want to keep that in-house for right now. I mean, I've come this far. I don't think there's any point of letting you know. We have an idea of what we're going to do and what we want to do. And then, you'll know at the appropriate time. I do apologize for that, but that's really more of an in-house cultural program deal to, again, give our players the best advantage they can have. Why give somebody information that they can take that and run with it and give them more time to plan? So it's a mixture of yes, 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 and yes to all your questions. But I really like where we are with what we've decided to do. So still got some things to iron out, but it's it's pretty much in-house.
You talked to me today about Poise versus Poison. How did you select that as one of the themes on this year's team?
It's interesting. Garrett Chernoff and I are obviously very close, and we spent a lot of time together, our general manager, and he's so smart. He's brilliant. I mean, he got a 35 on the ACT, which is almost double my score. And I was told a long time ago, if you surround yourself with people who are way smarter than you, you're going to have success. And that was the best advice I ever got. But every time we end a season, we come back from the bowl game, Garrett and I get together. We're already talking about next year's team. We talk about our roster management. We're talking 2 years out, what this team's personality we think is going to be. We gnaw on it. We think about it. And we spend a lot of time talking about that roster and knowing the personalities of that team. What are going to be the best or the biggest challenges moving forward? And what are we going to have to do to connect this football team come September? And we start that in January. And we started talking about this word poise. And then just like anything, I mean, I have a 6th grade social studies teacher mind. So you're going to finding ways to teach young people the cultural thing you want, the thing you want to get better in 130 different ways where everybody's going to be able to get it, right? And I think that was where it came from, is just we knew this word poise, control, balance, right, in hostile situations, right? And how can we get this message home constantly? And that's where, the Poison band came into play, where we could play that anytime they were in the building and have it in the background and have it downstairs, that if they don't have Poise, they will have Poison inside that locker room, whether after a loss or, when times get tough or whatever it is. And that's where it came from. And now we have, I don't know if you saw Crab's vintage Poison shirt when he walked out of Media Day. I mean, they've all bought into it. Now, can I tell you that, that they're big fans of Poison? I can't say that. I'm not sure if they're all fans of it. I bet you they can all name their favorite song or least favorite song. They probably have the names of those. And I think we got the message home to all of them because, again, their first thing starting summer was just a little less Poison in the weight room, as I said, in Media Day. And we were willing to grant that for sure because that was easy. We think we got the message. They said, Coach, we got it. But pretty cool that we've even extended that all the way into training camp. There's not 15 different messages of what they have to do to get better this year. And that's why it's so important to get it right come January. There's been times we said it in January, and come spring ball, we've changed it because that's not what they needed to get better at. And then training camp, that's not that team for sure. This one we hit spot on, that's what's going to be required, that control, that balance in real hostile situations, and offensively, defensively, special teams to have success.
I want to go back to what you said about recruiting, selecting, and guys that come in a program know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
Was that maybe the biggest surprise for you that report that came out last week, that it shouldn't be a shock what's asked of players when they come into this program by now, as long as you've been here?
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of speaking about the baseless allegations that were there, and so I've moved on to 2023 in this football team. I spent last week talking about that, too much time talking about that. To answer your question in recruiting, like we talked about earlier, we lay everything out for players. They come to multiple practices. They see meetings. They see – and listen, academically, here's going to be your expectations here. Listen, they're going to wear a collared shirt and sit up front. I mean, you know that, right? If you played for me today, Chip, you would know that that's going to be your expectation. But that's why when I say that, trust comes down to proof. Okay, we have 27 academic All-Americans in the history of the school. 9 have come in the last 6 years. Coincidence? I don't think so. And I'm not saying we have a bunch of just 4.0 kids walking around, right? I mean, these guys have to work hard. Jackie Lenish, Robert Day work incredibly hard, and our tutors and learning specialists to help our young people value their education. But if you're not valuing that piece, it's going to be hard for you to succeed here. Socially, if you're not going to do the right things here, right, it's going to be hard for you to have success, right? And we do everything we can to educate them. This is what we do. This is going to be your expectation socially, right? Because it's my job to help them live the life they dream of. And young people, they get the choice of the decision. You don't get the choice of the consequence. Sometimes in high school, maybe they had both. Well, this is the real world, right? And this is the first time they're on their own. So socially, massive expectations, right? And then serving and giving, they know that. I mean, row the boat, right, is directly tied to charity. It's one of the only slogans in college football that is directly tied to something way bigger than our football team, to our state, than the university, to something charitable. That's unheard of. And I do think that, in a lot of things, from, what we do for discipline, that's been well documented. We've said that for years. It's been so far ahead of the curve. And that's why it's hard to apologize for that, because we're ahead of the curve. I'm not saying everybody's going to be happy, but again, everybody knows expectations coming in here. And then athletically, I mean, football needs to be really important to you. That doesn't mean if somebody's here and then they end up leaving that they can't go to the NFL. But again, there's people that come in here and they fit, and then they realize, okay, this might not be for me. That's what the transfer portal's for. And that's what's so healthy about college football, that somebody has the ability to do that. And then you add on, the 6 anonymous ways that if you don't like anything, right? The flavor of your Powerade, you can let people know that. And so again, really proud of how we run our program and our culture, and love this football team, and that's where our focus is going to be.
Has the team applied for immediate waiver for Craig McDonald to play, and has there been any update on that at all?
Yeah, we definitely applied for the waiver. Really, he's going to be a really good football player. He is a really good football player. I mean, he's proven that. He had a heck of a day today, and but we've applied for that. Now, again, that's out of our hands and out of our control, but our administration and our football team done all the right steps to make sure that we do everything we can to put him in a place to be successful, and we'll see, what they do with that.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate everybody. Row the boat, Sky Ma. Go Gophers.